Have you ever felt sad about something? So sad that you cried about it? Well, that's how the mother in our story today felt. Jesus walked from town to town telling people about God and healing the sick. His disciples followed him everywhere he went, and other people wanted to hear and see what Jesus was doing too, so a large crowd followed him from place to place. One day Jesus came upon a town called Nain. In those days, the towns had walls around them with gates to let people in and out. As Jesus walked toward the town gate, he saw people carrying a coffin. A young man had died and was to be buried in the cemetery outside of town. His mother and a large crowd followed. Jesus could hear the young man's mother cry, and the crowd of crying people too. The mother was a widow, and that means that her husband had died. And now her only son had died too. Jesus immediately knew why she was sad. Her husband and her son had died, and now she was all alone. She had no one to help her, no one to earn money for food, no one to help her when she was sick, and no one to comfort her, to take care of her when she became old. Well, Jesus felt sorry for this mother, and he wanted to do something to help her. Quietly, he walked over to the woman. When the people saw him, everyone stood still. They stopped crying. Then they gathered around Jesus and the weeping mother. What would Jesus do, they wondered. What could he do? Jesus smiled at the woman and gently said, "Don't cry." Then he touched the coffin. When the people saw him do that, they all stared at him. What would Jesus do next? Then Jesus spoke. "Young man, I say to you, get up." The people must have been surprised to hear Jesus say that. Everyone knew that the young man was dead, and dead people don't get up. But when Jesus spoke, the young man sat up and began talking. Jesus gave him to his mother. Was she happy? Well, of course she was. She stopped crying and began praising God. The people were amazed. They were seeing a miracle. Their mouths must have fallen open in surprise. "God has come to help his people," they shouted. And soon everyone returned to the city, joyful and happy because of his love. God's care is so wonderful, and he asks us to help sad people too. When we see someone who is sick or scared or lonely, Jesus wants us to say kind words and listen to them, to comfort them. We can love them as Jesus does, and when we do, we are doing it for Jesus.
Good morning, boys and girls. Thank you for joining me. This is Miss Cynthia. And as you saw, today's video is about a woman who lost her son. And that Bible story is found in the book of Luke, chapter 7, verses 11 through 17. And so the woman in our story had pretty much lost everything she loved. Her husband was dead, and now her only son had passed away. So this left her alone, and she kind of felt hopeless. And there was nothing else that she could do to help her son. It was too late for her to save him. And so this was probably the saddest moment of her life. And so all of a sudden, everything changed. She met Jesus. It was not too late for Jesus. He healed her son and restored his life. And this was probably the happiest moment of her life now. And so you see, boys and girls, Jesus is the key to hope in life. You know, you may face situations where you feel hopeless, where you feel sad, where you feel like it's too late for you to help or to get help. And so you wish you had the ability to do something, right? Something that would help, but you don't. And so in those moments, never, never, never forget, boys and girls, never forget that it is never, ever too late for Jesus. Jesus is the key to your hope and life. And he loves you very, very much. And he sees you. And he will always, always be there for you. So this story teaches us that even when it seems like everything is over and it's too late for a miracle, Jesus can always show up and turn things around. That is something that you should never forget. Okay? Remember, Jesus is not bound by time. He's never late for anything like we are, right? Like if we're going to a birthday party or we're going to school and we're rushing, trying to make it out the door and try to make it there on time. And before you know it, you're late, right? And so Jesus is not like that. Jesus' timing is always perfect. He is never late. He is the ruler and the creator of time. And you see, Jesus is not bound by ability. There is nothing in this whole entire world that is impossible for him. No. And so knowing that Jesus is not bound by time and he's not bound by ability gives us hope. It is never ever too late for Jesus to do a miracle. And we can trust him. And you know, you don't just have to take my word for it. Okay, the Bible is great. And it's a great reminder that we can trust Jesus even when hope seems lost. And so in our Bibles, in Psalms 46:10, God tells us to be still and know that I am God. He says, be still and know that I am God. And what does that mean? It means maybe that you shouldn't try to fix things yourself, right? Maybe you should just stay calm and you should pray about it and you should maybe hear what God is trying to tell you, right? Maybe he's going to give you an answer to your problem. And so also in Proverbs 3:5, the Lord tells us, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. And so what that means is that with all your heart, you should trust that God is going to come through for you. With all your heart, you should trust that he's going to give you an answer, right? And don't lean unto your own understanding. When things don't make sense, when things are hard for you to understand, don't worry about it. Just trust in God. Trust that he will help you, okay? And so today you might be facing the worst situation of your life. You might be full of more sadness possibly than you have ever felt in your life. You may feel more alone than ever. But even in your worst moments, you have to remember Jesus sees you. He saw the mother. He saw that she was really sad and she felt hopeless. And he sees you. And he knows exactly where you are. So you may feel like Jesus is far away, but he isn't. He's right beside you. He sees and he knows exactly what you're going through. And not only that, but he knows how sad you are. So remember, guys, no matter what you're going through today, Jesus can completely change the situation around. It may seem like it's all over and it's never going to change or it's never going to get better. But you must never, ever, ever forget that it is never too late for a miracle. Okay? Remember that God tells us in Psalms 46:10. Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. So be still, pray about it, and know that God loves you and he cares for you. And he knows who you are. He knows your name. And he just wants the best for you, okay? I love you guys. And I hope to see you guys next Sunday.